AITA for ignoring my mom's plea for help years after she exploited me in the hospital? My name is Brooke, and I am 30 years old. I woke up one Tuesday feeling like I had been hit by a bus. My throat was raw. My 6-year-old son, Logan, looked at me with worry. I knew I could not take care of him. I called my parents, hoping for a little compassion. "Mom, I do not feel well," I said in a hoarse voice. "Can you watch Logan for a couple of days?" There was a long pause. "You know our rates, Brooke, and this time we want the money up front." My own mother, demanding an advance payment to care for her grandson while I could barely speak. After dropping Logan off at their house in the Phoenix suburbs, I drove myself back to my townhome, hoping some rest would chase away whatever I had. But as the hours passed, I only got worse. By nightfall, it felt like an elephant was sitting on my chest. Every breath was a struggle, and the room started spinning whenever I tried to stand up. When I started seeing black spots in my vision, I knew this was not just a cold. My hands were shaking so much I could barely dial 911. The next few hours were a blur of sirens, white hallways, and medical terms flying through the air. I was admitted to the hospital through my health insurance. They rushed me through x-rays and blood tests. Finally, a doctor in blue scrubs stood at the head of my bed with a grave expression. "Severe pneumonia," he said, showing me the chest x-ray. "You will have to stay in the hospital for at least 2 weeks. 2 weeks. My heart raced. What about Logan? And my job? I managed to call my boss first, who was surprisingly understanding. But when I called my parents, that is when everything truly fell apart. "Mom, I am in the hospital," I whispered into the phone. "The doctors say I have to stay for at least 2 weeks. Could you please watch him for me?" "Absolutely not." My mother's shrill voice cut through my explanation like a knife. "We are leaving on a trip in 3 days, your father, me, Ashley, and the kids. Everything is arranged. We are not canceling our plans just because you cannot handle your responsibilities as a mother." The hospital room seemed to close in around me as I processed her words. My own mother, choosing a vacation over her sick daughter and her grandson. "Mom, please," I begged, my voice cracking with emotion and illness. "I will pay you double what you usually charge to watch Logan. I know it is an inconvenience, but I am really sick." The silence on the other end of the line stretched for what felt like an eternity. I could picture my mother in her favorite armchair, twirling a strand of her gray hair, the way she does when she is calculating something. Finally, she spoke. "Well, your father and I paid $5,000 for this trip," she said in that businesslike, opportunistic tone of hers. "If you can pay us $10,000 to cover our expenses and the trouble, we will consider canceling it." The oxygen monitor next to my bed started beeping faster as my pulse skyrocketed. $10,000. In my foggy head, I did the math. It was more than 2 months of my net salary. It was absurd blackmail. "Mom, that is insane," I said with effort, trying to catch my breath. "You know I do not have that kind of money right now. I am a single mother with a mortgage to pay." "Then I suggest you figure it out," she scoffed. "Because if you do not pick up Logan in 3 days, I am going to have no choice but to leave him in an unsafe situation. I am not missing this trip, Brooke. You always do this. You create drama and expect everyone to drop everything for you." The call disconnected. I stared at the phone in disbelief. I tried calling back, but there was no answer. Straight to voicemail. Again, nothing. My own mother had blocked my number while I lay in a hospital bed struggling to breathe. I felt they had crossed a moral line from which there was no coming back. Reality hit me like a wave. I was alone in this city, truly alone. Our relatives lived in other cities. Aunt Carol in Miami, Uncle Kevin in Chicago, Cousin Samantha in Houston. And since I had only moved back to Phoenix 6 months ago, I had not had time to build close friendships yet. Sure, I had colleagues, but who asks a coworker to take their child for 2 weeks? Desperate, I did something I had been trying to avoid. I called Derek. My hands trembled as I dialed, and not just from the fever. "Brooke." He sounded surprised. "What is wrong?" I swallowed my pride and explained the situation, trying to keep my voice steady. "I know it is a lot to ask, but could you take Logan for a couple of weeks? I am in the hospital with pneumonia and my parents. I cannot," he interrupted. "Amber's C-section is scheduled for any day now. In fact, we are going to the clinic tomorrow. There is no one to stay with her or watch the house. My sister is out of the country. My mom has a doctor's appointment she cannot miss, and we have only hired help for after the birth, not before. I cannot move anything. Amber, his new wife, the 25-year-old who had been his secretary, the same one he left us for, was about to give birth to their new baby while I lay here alone, with nowhere to send our son. I looked at my contact list. There was one name I had been avoiding, one last possible lifeline, but just seeing it made my stomach turn. Barbara, my ex-mother-in-law. We had not spoken since the divorce 6 months ago, and even before that, our relationship had been tense. Barbara never thought I was good enough for her precious Derek. She made it clear with backhanded compliments and not-so-subtle criticisms. However, though she was cold to me, she had always shown a soft spot for Logan. She would send him books for Christmas. She once spent a whole afternoon building Legos with him. When they said goodbye, her eyes would get misty. That crack in her armor lit up in my memory like a faint light in the middle of my fever. My finger hovered over her name for what felt like hours. The oxygen mask fogged with each breath. Finally, I pressed call before I could back out. 1 ring. 2. 3. Brooke. Barbara's voice was full of surprise and something else. Genuine concern. Is everything okay? Just hearing her tone, the same voice that had so often delivered little Barb's, made my eyes fill with tears. Barbara, I began, my voice broken, and the whole story came tumbling out between stifled sobs and wheezing breaths. The pneumonia, the hospital, my parents' ultimatum, Derek's refusal, Amber's impending C-section. By the time I finished, I was practically hyperventilating, and a nurse had to come adjust my oxygen. The silence that followed felt endless. I braced myself for rejection, for an "I told you so," for this proves you cannot handle things on your own. Then Barbara spoke. "I will be there tomorrow," she said firmly. "Send me your townhome address and your parents' address. I will pick up Logan and stay at your place with him until you are better." With trembling fingers, I sent her the information. For the first time since I was admitted, I felt I could breathe a little easier, and it was not because of the mask. On the 7th day of my hospitalization, that was the first day they allowed visitors. Before, it was only calls and messages. That morning my phone rang. It was my mother, her voice dripping with irritation. "When are you coming to get your son?" she demanded. "Logan is being impossible and we need to pack." I took a deep breath, gathering what little strength I had. "My ex-mother-in-law is picking him up today." The huff she let out was so loud it crackled through the speaker. "Your ex-mother-in-law? Really, Brooke? You could not find anyone better than that woman?" She hung up without waiting for a reply. A few hours later, the first message from Barbara arrived on my phone. A photo of Logan smiling with ice cream all over his face. He looked happier than he had in weeks. "Someone wanted ice cream after lunch," the caption read. I found myself smiling despite the pain in my chest. Then more photos came. Logan doing his homework at the kitchen table. Logan helping to prepare dinner. Logan showing off a pillow fort in the living room. Each snapshot was a little piece of home breaking through the sterile hospital walls. That night I received a video. "Look what Grandma Barbara bought me." Logan proudly showed off a dinosaur puzzle. The camera panned. Barbara was sitting on the floor, cross-legged, surrounded by pieces, patient and smiling. For a moment I thought she always loved him. Maybe I was the one who did not see it. "On the 14th day, we are discharging you today," the pulmonologist said. "Keep up with the breathing exercises and do not skip your medication. Follow up in 2 weeks." It had been exactly 14 days since I was admitted. They had allowed visitors since day 7. Barbara and Logan did not miss a single visiting day, always bringing something. Homemade soup, magazines, a smile. The sound of running feet echoed down the hallway before Logan burst into my room. His face lit up. "Mom!" He carefully launched himself onto my bed, mindful of the 4 lines. Behind him, Barbara appeared, holding up a thermal bag. "We brought real food," she said. "The hospital stuff will not help you recover." She laid out containers of homemade soup, fresh bread, and a lemon dessert, my favorite, which I had mentioned only once at a family gathering years ago. While Logan chattered excitedly about his week, I watched Barbara. She was different, softer around the edges. The perpetual criticism was absent from her expression. She asked about my treatment and listened to my answers, seeming genuinely concerned. Her visits became the bright spot of each day. She brought books, more food, funny stories about Logan's adventures at home. One afternoon while Logan was coloring, Barbara fell quiet. She seemed to be struggling with something. "I owe you an apology, Brooke," she finally said in a low voice. "The way I treated you was wrong." I almost dropped my spoon. In all the years I had known her, I had never heard her admit to a mistake. "I have seen who my son really married," she continued. "That woman only thinks about spending 3 designer bags in 1 week, and the way she talks to him. You were good for Derek. You loved him for who he was, not for what he could buy you. I was just too blind to see it." As I watched her help Logan with his coloring, I understood that sometimes family is not about blood or paperwork. It is about who shows up when you need them, who puts their life on pause to care for your child, who brings you soup, and who apologizes when they have been wrong. Still in the hospital, my phone vibrated with a notification. Ashley had tagged my parents from a beach resort. There they were, all smiles and sunburns, cocktails in hand, the kids building sandcastles. The caption read, "Family is what matters." I laughed out loud, startling the nurse who was taking my blood pressure. The perfect irony. Family is what matters, said by the people who demanded $10,000 to care for their sick daughter's son, and threatened to leave their grandson in an unsafe situation. When I was finally discharged, Barbara and Logan were waiting for me at my townhome. They had cleaned, stocked the fridge, and even hung up a banner he had made. "Welcome home, Mom." I hugged Barbara tightly, trying to convey with my body what I could not with words. "Thank you for everything." "That is what family is for," she replied simply. And how different those words sounded coming from her compared to the empty version from my own parents. Getting back to normal took time. I found a wonderful nanny named Lisa, whom Logan adored from day one. When I had to travel for work, I no longer even considered calling my parents. Why subject Logan to people who saw him as a burden when Lisa treated him like her own? My parents called a couple of times, but I let the calls go to voicemail. What could I say to them? They had already shown me where I stood on their list of priorities, somewhere below a vacation and $10,000. Barbara and I started talking regularly, at least once a week, sometimes more. Video calls with Logan, care packages, genuine interest. It was the kind of motherly relationship I had always wished for with my own mom. 5 months after the hospital episode, Barbara called with an unexpected proposal. "My brother Richard is looking for someone with your profile for his company," she said with a note of excitement. "I mentioned your name, he saw your portfolio, and he was impressed." I sat up straighter. "The salary is double what you are making now," she continued. "And before you ask about Logan, I would be delighted to look after him while you work. I am retired now. It would make me so happy to have my grandson nearby." My head spun with the possibilities. Double the salary, a fresh start in another city, Logan with a grandmother who actually wanted to spend time with him. 2 weeks later, Logan and I were packed and ready to go. I did not tell my parents or Ashley we were leaving. They would find out eventually, but by then we would be long gone, starting our new life with the family that chose us. 2 years can change everything. Logan flourished in his new school in Denver, making friends and bringing home excellent grades. I worked my way up to senior marketing director at Richard's company, and my salary grew even more. Barbara became a true grandmother to Logan. She showed up at his soccer games, helped with school projects, and spoiled him with love, not things. We finally started looking for a house, a place of our own. Just that morning I had been reviewing mortgage options, calculating the down payment, and dreaming of a yard for Logan to play in. Then my phone rang. An unknown number with a familiar Phoenix area code. "Hello?" I answered cautiously. "Brooke." "It is Mom." I almost dropped my coffee mug. 2 years of silence and now this. My mother's voice sounded different, strained, even desperate. "What do you want?" I tried to keep my voice neutral, but 2 years of hurt do not just disappear. "We need your help." "With what?" "With Ashley. She left." Her voice broke. "She ran off with some guy she met online. She packed one bag and just left. Did not even say goodbye to the kids. Said she needed to find herself." I sank into a chair. "She had abandoned her children. They have been with us for 3 weeks now," she continued. "Your father and I are not young anymore. And the kids are so expensive. Food, clothes, school supplies." I could see where this was going. What exactly do you want from me, Mom? Well, you are their aunt. We thought you could send us money each month to help with their expenses. It is the least you can do for family. I could not help it. I laughed. A real deep laugh that came from somewhere deep inside me. The least I can do for family? I repeated. Like when you demanded $10,000 to look after your own grandson while I was hospitalized. Like when you threatened to leave a 6-year-old boy in an unsafe situation. That kind of family obligation? That was different, she sputtered. We had plans. No, Mom. You chose a vacation over your sick daughter and grandson. You chose Ashley's drama over my stability every single time. And now you call me after 2 years to ask for money? We are talking about innocent children, Brooke. Yes, just like we were talking about an innocent child 2 years ago. My son. Your grandson. The one you abandoned. If you will not help us the easy way. Her voice turned sharp. We will bring the kids to your apartment and leave them there. You will have no choice. I smiled at her empty threat. Go ahead, Mom. But good luck finding me. I moved to another city 2 years ago. What? Where are you? That is none of your business, I said calmly. You know what they say about karma. It always comes back around. You raised Ashley to believe she could do whatever she wanted without consequences. You encouraged her for years while criticizing my every step. Now you are reaping what you sow. Please, Brooke, her voice broke, dropping the threatening tone. We are your parents. We need your help. Funny. I was your daughter when I needed your help, and that did not seem to matter. I hung up. Then I blocked her number. I felt lighter than I had in years. That night, watching Logan and Barbara work on a science project at the kitchen table, I knew I had made the right decision. The months passed. Life went on. Through the family grapevine, mostly from my Aunt Carol who loves sharing news on our monthly calls, I heard about my parents' struggles. They hired an expensive nanny because they could not handle the kids alone. They were burning through their retirement savings. And of course, they were telling anyone who would listen that their ungrateful younger daughter refused to help her family in their time of need. And you know what is truly ironic? Aunt Carol said on our last call, they have not said a single bad word about Ashley. Can you believe it? She abandoned her kids, and they are still making excuses for her. I was not surprised. Some things never change. Last week I closed on our new house, a 4-bedroom with a big yard, perfect for Logan's upcoming 8th birthday party. Barbara has already claimed a room as her grandma room for when she visits, which is often. Logan is thriving in school on the honor roll and he plays on the soccer team. I was recently promoted to executive director of marketing, and Richard keeps hinting that a partnership could be in the future. Our life is full, happy, and free of unnecessary drama. Sometimes, sitting on the patio watching Logan and Barbara tend to the small garden they started together, I think about how strange it all is. How the people you expect to hold you up can let you down completely, while help arrives from the most unexpected places. How losing what you thought was everything can lead you to something so much better. And my parents' opinion no longer matters. Their words cannot reach me here. In this life we have built for ourselves. A life filled with love, respect, and real family. The kind that shows up when you need them most, with no price tag attached. Comment. I really connected with how the main character stood up for herself and protected her peace. Setting clear boundaries with family can be tough, but it is often the healthiest choice we can make. I admire the surprising kindness that came from someone she least expected. It reminded me that true family shows up without conditions or price tags. Taking responsibility for our own healing helps us build a better life for ourselves and our loved ones. Sometimes walking away from toxic patterns opens the door to real support and love. I hope this story encourages you to reflect on the relationships in your life. Choosing calm over constant drama has made such a difference in my own journey. Remember that you deserve people who value you without making you prove your worth. Let us all keep choosing the kind of love that lifts us up every single day. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.